Hello, this is 2-6, Working with Tables 1 of the course Introduction to Desktop Publishing. Today we're going to learn about tables, inserting them, changing the sizes, changing the borders, and how we use tables in a primer. And let's start with a prayer and Bible verse. The Bible verse today is Matthew 5, verse 14 and 16. You are the light for the whole world. A city built on top of a hill cannot be hidden. Make your light shine so others will see the good you do and will praise your Father in heaven. And Father, we do pray that our light will shine. It's not to bring us glory, but to bring you glory and honor, to tell people about your love and your salvation. Just help us to praise you, to worship you, to love you more and more, to love your word, to love lost people, and use our talents and gifts that you've given us, Lord, to tell people about your love. I pray in Jesus' name, amen. So I'm going to share the screen. And I'm going to show you some examples of tables in primers. This is a primer template, and you can see these are tables. They're not text boxes. I'm moving this one. So you can see there are dark borders around some of the parts, and there are just light borders. We can see them, but they will not print out, or they will not show up on your PDF. And you'll know these are tables because if you hover or click, a little selection point will show up. It's got a little cross on it, and that tells you this is a table. This is a table with 5 columns in just one row, but there's room there for several words, for 2 words and the syllables that go with them. So that's for the picture words. Now this is a table here with 5 columns and 2 rows. The first row is just for the numbers. These are for the picture words, picture word 1 and picture word 2. Now the column in the center is just a spacer column. It's just to put a separation between the 2 picture words and the boxes that they go in. So I'm going to close this down and show some other examples. Oops. This is an actual primer, and you can see again that these are tables. This is a table. This is a table. You can see the light borders that are not actually borders. They're not going to print out. And there are dark borders around some of the sections where the picture words are. I want to close this down. And I have a document. This is A5 size or A4 half size. This is the normal size that we use in our most of our primers. And we're going to insert a table and show you a lot about tables in our primers. I'm going to insert up here, the insert command, insert a table. You'll see it's a little picture of a table. I click it. We can select how many rows and columns we want. I'm just going to make, I'm going to make 5 columns and 2 rows for our word boxes. I'm selecting all of the columns. We're going to table layouts. We're going to change the size of the different sections. And I like each of the word boxes, each side of the word box to be 1 inch wide. So up here we have height and width, and the height we'll change it later, but we want the width to be 1 inch each, 1 inch each. And in the center column, I like this to be 0.2 or 0.2 of an inch. And that's so that we'll have plenty of room on our page to put in all the items that we need. I'm going to hit enter a couple of times to make the area for the words to make it longer. So we have room. We have room here now for a word and for 2 different syllables. And that's usually what we have in our primers. Now you'll notice there are dark borders around the entire table, around all the rows and all the columns. And we want to change that. So we have a layout, table layout with different controls. We have table design. We'll go to table design where we can change the borders. And up here you can see there's a whole section called borders. There's a border styles, and here you have the border style that is set right now. And you have another section where we actually tell it which border we want to have that style. You know, top border, bottom border, right border, left border. And here you have another section. You may not have it in your version of Microsoft Word, but that's Border Painter is much more difficult, more sophisticated. And if you have that in your Microsoft Word, you might experiment with that. But right now, we're going to select the top row, and we don't want borders around all of it. We want borders around some of it. I'm selecting this, where this part of the border section, and you can see at the top it says no border. Now it's not going to do anything yet till I tell it which part of this row we want to have no border. We go to this little picture of a table in the border section. I didn't mean to do that. I meant to hit the little arrow. Let me do Control Z. There's a little arrow here, and it will give us all these choices. So we're going to say top border. We want the top border to have, you can see it's just the light border, and that will not show up in a printout. And now I'm going to do right and left borders. That will be easier. Just click the little arrow, left border, right border. We're going to do inside borders because there's little lines inside. Have right there. And you'll notice it left the bottom border of that row, which is the top border of this row. And that's what we wanted. And you'll notice the column that's just a spacer, a divider, it has borders, and we want these to disappear, some of them, the top one and the bottom one. So I'm going back to the little picture of the table. I'm going to click top, and I'm going to click bottom. And so they're the light, very light borders that will not show up on your printout. You'll notice that only happened to this column because I had clicked inside of it. If you want to do an entire row or an entire column, you'll have to drag and select several, or you just click inside the section you want to work on. So I want you to practice the things that I'm teaching and practice them over and over again in your own time till you get better acquainted with working with tables. And I'm going to actually type some words in here and show you a lot more about working with tables. I'm going to type my name, and we want it to be in Arial. I'm going to go to the home menu and change the font to Arial. That's great. Now there's lots of ways to enter data. I typed one word. I'm going to copy it. And we want this to all line up on the right because I'm going to pick the last syllable to teach about this time. So we're going to line everything up on the right. I copied this whole section. And that often happens. It doesn't want to line up on the right. Okay, when we have the whole entire word in all the sections, we're just going to delete the part we don't want. So we don't want this part, we don't want this part. On the left side of the word box says usually the teacher teaches this part, and on this side the student should be able to read that part, that section. So they're reversed. The order is reversed. The word is here, the word is here. And we're going to change this by making this letter white. So it will not show up on a printout. So this is the section where you can make the letters different colors. There's an A and a little color bar under it. If we click the little arrow, we have lots of colors. And down here, you could even have more colors. We might talk about that some other time. Right now, let's change this letter white. And we'll do the same thing over here. And you could always just copy this and paste it over here. Anything that will help you to save time. And I'm going to delete all of this and start again and show you different ways to enter data. So I don't need the entire word. I do need to have this in here to keep the place, to make the syllables line up exactly under each other. And we turn the letter white. And the reason we turn letters white is if you tried to space over or to put in an indent in just one section, it's not going to come out exactly correctly. But if you put in the same letter and just turn it white, everything lines up exactly under each other. Now I can copy that word and paste it over here. We're going to do the same thing. Take out the parts we don't want. Turn this letter white. You'll notice that the color here, the color that we selected, remains the default color until you change the color again. So everything's in white. And I'm going to type something different over here. I'll type my first name. And we have to change the font to Arial. That's easier for the student to read. I'm going to copy that, paste it. We'll do the same thing over here. You could copy the entire 3 rows and paste them over here. We want these line up on the left. I'm going to teach the pat, patty, pat, and then the pa sound, pa or pa. And we'll do the opposite over here. Well, I have something better to show you, but I'll show you in a minute. Okay, we have patty, pat, pa, pa or pa. So I want to do that again and show you something that's really, really interesting. Copy the patty part, or copy this whole entire thing. So this is very interesting. In Microsoft Word, you can drag and select several letters or a word. I'm clicking on it and holding my mouse button down and dragging that. I dragged it, those 3 letters down there. So whatever you do, learn to do what will save you time, will take the least amount of time. Now you will notice in these word boxes, there's a great amount of white space on the left side, and there's not much white space on the right side. And the same thing over here, except opposite. There's a great amount of white space on this side, and there's not much white space on this side. So I'm going to show you how to fix that. We like things to be kind of centered in the different sections of the word boxes, and that will just make everything more attractive and make everything more consistent in the entire primer. So I'm selecting both sides of the word box. I'm going up to the word paragraph here, paragraph section. We click the little arrow. And so this is paragraph spacing, line spacing. I like to have it exactly the way I want it. And section is indentation. We might teach about this section sometime. But for now, since I have both sides of the word box selected, that is what is going to be indented. We want it moved away from the right edge slightly. So we're going to indent it on the right. And the correct amount would be 1/10 of an inch. And I know that because I practiced. And so I'm going to click OK. So you can see it's not exactly the same, but it's really close. And you can experiment with how much space you want, how much indentation you want to put in there. And let's do the same thing over here. We want things indented from the left in these word boxes because there's so much space, empty space on the right. So we're going to indent from the left. Go to the paragraph section. In the indentation, we want to indent it. Maybe it would be 0.2, 2/10 of an inch, because that's quite a large space there. 2/10 of an inch. Okay. That looks really nice. That will be attractive and be consistent throughout the primer. I'm going to put in a number 1 here and a number 2 here. So, and I'm going to show you a lot more about tables. We want to teach about how to get the table exactly where you want it on the page. And on some parts of the lesson, we want the table to be in the center. And some parts we want the table to be on the left side, like in the left-hand page of a primer lesson. We want things to be lined up on the left. And in the right-hand side of a primer lesson, we like things to be in the center, because as you get into later lessons and into book 2, we would want more things to be centered. So you see, I selected the entire table. I can just click there and you see the selection box comes up. Now I'm going to click on that, but I'm going to right click and you will see what happens. I push the top right side of my mouse, right, that's called right click. And you see that says table properties. You have that in other places on your computer, but this is an easy place to find it. Table properties. Right here, we want to pick around the text wrapping around. And if it's set on none, this little box doesn't show up, and we want it to show up so we have more selections. You see there's lots of selections, but we have table. We're going to do something to the entire table. I have to click text wrapping around to make the positioning. Positioning explains to the computer exactly where we want that table to go. It's easier than just grabbing it and moving it. Positioning. So we want it to be positioned on the page. You could click margin or you could click page. We'll put 0.7, 7/10 of an inch from the left edge of the page. And we'll select page down here also. So this was horizontal, the horizontal place where we want it put horizontally on the page. And this part is vertical. Where do we want it vertically on the page? And usually on the left-hand side of a primer lesson, we would probably be 3 inches down vertically. And here we have options, but we don't want any of these selected because we don't want it to move around with the text, and we don't want other objects to be able to overlap on top of our table. So I'm going to click OK. You can see it move down, and it's the reason I didn't want it exactly on the margin is to give it more space away from the margin, because the primer will be folded, the pages will be folded, and they'll be trimmed. And we want to have plenty of space. Let's do that again. We're going to go to, I'll just close that and we'll right click it again. Table properties. text wrapping around, positioning, and I will show you margin. We don't want it 0.7 from the margin because the margin is a 1/2 inch. We want it 0.2 from the margin. We're 2/10 away from the margin, the left margin. Now it didn't move because that was the exact same command, just using different words. And that's a lot of fun. I'll show you centering now. Table properties, positioning, page, center it on the page. Might be a little bit different. Okay. It moved to the center of the page, and that's for some of the pages. Now these commands in using tables will be useful for you, not only in primers, but also in other documents you might be doing. You might want a table with lots of columns, lots of data. And I'm going to show you a syllable chart now. We're going to insert a table. I'm going to insert table. I'm clicking. Gives you all these choices. But I just want to insert one column right now, or 2 columns. It doesn't matter. One column, all the rows right here. And we're going to make a syllable chart, but we want each column to be very small. So I'm going to layout again, where we can change the size of the columns. And it's saying it's almost 5 inches wide. So we're going to change that. We want it to be a 1/2 inch wide, 0.5. And it doesn't matter about the height right now. Okay, that looks better. We want more columns in our syllable chart. We might have 5, we might have 7 or 8. So, and we want more rows. The easy way to get more rows is to go to the bottom row, and use your tab button. See, it made lots more rows. And you can also do that just by pasting in data. Now I'm going to add columns. The easy way, you can see we're on layout, and over here you have delete if you want to delete a column or a row. This is set on columns. Well, insert rows, or insert columns, insert rows above or below, or insert columns left or right. Let's insert some columns to the right. So now I have 5 columns, and that will be a good syllable chart for one of our lessons, one of our future lessons. I'm going to type a little bit of data in here just so you can see. And want it to be Arial. Want it to be aligned on the right. You can either do Control R, take that off, or you can use the little icons in your home page to center it, left align or right align. I'm going to copy that. And see, I can select all these rows and just paste, and it will paste it on all of them, but I have to line it up again. So that's a lot of fun. And we're going to save this document, and we'll use it in a future lesson to teach you a lot about finding and replacing, and more about syllable charts. Now, in some instances, in some exercises, in some documents, tables will be much easier to work with, and in some cases, text boxes will be much easier to work with. You'll just have to decide as you get more practice. And so that's all we're teaching today. And I'm going to stop sharing. And I look forward to our next session. And thank you for being with us, and goodbye for now.